Ah, crud. It's safe to say that Arkham Knight had many expectations on its shoulders. It came out a few years after Arkham Origins, whose quality is quite divisive, and Arkham City was the pinnacle of the franchise. While Rocksteady was back at the helm, they had to do more than create a great game. Arkham Knight had to stand out, prove that it could be in the same league as its predecessors, and be a significant step over its little stepbrother. While scores for the game are good, quite a few YouTubers have expressed criticisms at launch, and even to this day. They don't say that Arkham Knight is outright bad, it's just a disappointment. But is it the same disappointment I felt towards Arkham Origins? Well, I played the crud out of this game when it came out, using all 4 save slots and played through the story to 100% and even 240 in New Game Plus. Replaying it years later, I could say that it performs much better than Origins, and even improves upon some aspects of the previous games. Still, it has a fair share of problems in almost all the categories, some of which I didn't think were as immense as others made them out to be, and others I agree with. First, let's start with the premise. Wait, what's happening? That's Joker. What are we... Oh, they're going to burn his corpse to Frank Sinatra music. No, wait. We're burning his corpse while listening to Frank Sinatra music.
This is how it happened. This is how the Batman died.
Gordon, put up a spoiler warning first. Okay, now the premise. Arkham City has shut down, and Gotham experiences its first ever Pax Romana. We play as a cop just wanting to get his waffles and bacon for dinner, but a citizen wants us to tell a man to take his milk outside. We try that and get sucked into a horror segment where we can choose to shoot our imaginative monsters or not before being beaten to a pulp. Scarecrow comes on the air and warns Gotham that this is just the beginning and that he has much more in store. This prompts all citizens to evacuate the city, allowing for a hostile takeover by criminals and Scarecrow's PMC, run by a mysterious villain called the Arkham Knight. Batman's goal is to put a stop to Scarecrow's plans, find out who the Arkham Knight is, and take back Gotham City from the hives of scum and villainy. First, a quick word about the PC version, which I am playing for this review. The PC port on launch was notoriously broken, probably more so than Origins. It caused Warner Brothers to pull it off digital shelves and let the PS4 and Xbox One versions thrive. However, it did get a re-release years later, and I can say that whatever nasty bugs there were on launch were meticulously corrected. There are still issues like the occasional pop-in texture or other wonky things. Still, these were rare. This version is very playable. First, let's talk about the presentation. Graphically, Arkham Knight is drop-dead gorgeous. Just look at this Unreal Engine artistry. Look at how magnificent each city looks as you glide over them, how the cape now flaps in the air, how rain visibly reflects off Batman. Also, the lighting has some excellent details, including how it interacts with the suit at certain angles. While it's hard to tell if they put any cel shading back into the game, the use of dark and bright color schemes combined with the lighting gives the dark and dirty vibe expected from a place like Gotham. It evokes the scope and uniqueness of Gotham City that Arkham Origins was missing. On another positive note, Origins' clarity issue is not a problem in this title. In a battle, you know which enemy types are which, and the lighting didn't obscure anyone. There is more distinction, as seen with the Arkham Knight's militia. They're in more tactical gear and have brighter red, white, or black colors. Plus their brutes have a unique design. They are very much separate from the criminals and rioters who have more casual and rugged attire. Arkham Knight's fidelity is perfect. I can't say the same thing for the art direction. Once you're a few hours in, you realize there isn't a lot inside Gotham that's given any personality or anything that makes it stand out. Sure, the islands can be different, such as Founders Island having a lot of construction and renovation, Bleak Island having the plot important buildings, and Miyagani Island existing. You mostly glide or drive through the area to get to an objective, most of them on rooftops. Lots and lots of rooftops. There isn't a lot here that's memorable or make you want to take in the sights. This isn't just for the outdoor areas either. Take a look at these banks and tell me, without looking them up, which island they are on. Now, look at these locations from Arkham City and tell me at least which gang member they belong to, and, as a bonus, which parts of the map they are on. Sure, there are details I have found thanks to riddles and trophies, but this is a significant downgrade. Let's be honest, if you go to New York City or Boston, you're not going there for the similar looking buildings. You go there for the attractions, parks, or exhibits that make the city unique. That's not to say you won't visit some exceptional locations. You can go to an air blimp and control its orientation for puzzles. There's also the GCPD building, where criminals and allies are holed up, and the evidence room, aka a glorified exhibit, where you'll find some very familiar items.
One electric charge gun used by Batman, aka... we don't like to ask. Batman dropped this here with the rest of the Arkham City evidence. Nice to have some of Batman's gear in the evidence room. Hope he doesn't ask for it back.
I need it. Still, Arkham Knight tries to emphasize fidelity over meaningful and unique creations. This also goes for the criminals and rioters. While they are different from the militia, they all look the same, no matter which head honcho you're facing. If there are any distinctions, they're not obvious. As for sound, it's not entirely back to what it was in Arkham City, but there are improvements. Finishers are back to having divine thunder, but not as impactful. My favorites are the more subtle details, like the cape as it flaps against the wind, and how much more powerful dive bombs sound and feel. Then there's the Batmobile. You just don't forget the first time stepping into this thing, hearing the almost foreign sound of Batman's tires as you chase someone down or drive through the city, and that engine afterburner. It makes the car feel as powerful as any depiction of it should. The tank parts are good too. Blasts from your cannon, minigun, and other weapons are distinct, and warning sounds indicate enemy missiles coming towards you, if the flashing red signal hasn't told you that already. Oh, and the detective vision. Why does it sound like Batman's on the verge of schizophrenia? The music is competent. It's better than Arkham Asylum's music, but ranks below City and even Origins. It does sound like something from a Batman show, but it fails to heighten the tension of combat or stealth as its predecessors did.
Each element you carry is vital to my plan.
Just went off in his hand!
It even uses some of City's soundtrack, but rarely in a way that pays homage to the game. Instead, it's just thrown in there to spice up the current music. The highlight of the presentation is the character models. They are a vast improvement over Arkham Origins, keeping the comic book aesthetic while rendering everyone in razor-sharp fidelity. It's the best an Arkham character has ever looked. Now, I know there are going to be comments critiquing me on this point. I had one or two people from the previous video mistaking what I meant by comic book aesthetics, believing I was referring solely to the character designs. While that is a part of it, it is mostly a matter of fidelity. Arkham Asylum started with cel-shaded graphics for the characters and environments, giving the impression that you were playing inside a graphic novel or an animated series. Every character looked rendered from a 2D panel into 3D space. Arkham City decided to tone down the cel shading, but took extra care with the models and preserved some color, so you could still say this is a comic or animated world. Arkham Origins did no such thing. It looked like WB Montreal shaved off all of the characters' ink-like colors, making them look like something from a CGI film, which is inconsistent with what Rocksteady envisioned. While characters like Slade and Gordon looked great without cel shading, characters like Joker are where the shift is apparent. Even if their design is faithful to a comic adaptation, the complete absence of cel shading made him look more like a real-life creep, not an animated psychopath. Yet, Arkham Knight proves that you can have razor-sharp fidelity and feel like you're playing inside of a graphic novel. It requires extra care with the characters, levels, and colors. There are a few inconsistencies, such as Riddler's design, but for the most part, I still felt like I was playing inside a comic book, which didn't clash with what Rocksteady has done before. Even the facial animations receive a considerable upgrade, with subtle but expressive detail. It's the direction Arkham City was heading that Origins forsook. As for characters' voices, a few actors return, especially Kevin Conroy in the Batsuit. His voice requires discussion. I once heard the Russian Badger refer to his voice as, and I quote, flat, monotone, and just describing things that are self-explanatory, before fans start crying, "Heresy!" I will agree that Conroy's delivery is somewhat different from the previous Arkham games. His inflection is deeper, and he's monologuing with himself more. Even his facial animations reflect his tonal shift.
The drone sensors are temporarily disabled, but I can only hack one at a time, so the previous drone will be back online.
Any word from inside?
Nothing. We think there's a skeleton crew left in there, but they're not responding and the facility's locked down.
If they're still alive, I'll find them. They should be able to tell us what Scarecrow's up to.
Still, I didn't mind because of the context from the earlier games. He's been through a lot and probably didn't give himself time to reflect on what happened. His voice depicts somebody who sounds defeated, has more weight on his shoulders, and doesn't know how to deal with it besides hiding it behind a stoic attitude. Plus, he still has moments where he goes off the rails.
Remember something else?
He uses a refrigeration company as a front. The trucks distribute weapons throughout the city.
What's it called?
North Refrigeration.
Thank you.
Besides Conroy, veterans like Troy and Nolan return to their roles as Two-Face and Penguin respectively.
Remember when I had the principal? Remember when I told Gordon we should arrest you? Said we shouldn't work with vigilantes? You promised me we'd crush crime in Gotham within the year. Was I ever part of the plan? Or was I just a distraction? A pretty boy lawyer the mob could focus all that hate on, while you tore them apart.
What is it? It's the Bat. He's following us. We're losing. We're trying. It ain't easy. I don't worry that. If you bring him anywhere near my guns, I'll do you some serious damage.
Yet, a lot of the characters have had changes to their voiceovers. Scarecrow's voice actor goes from Dino Andrade to John Noble.
Poor little bat, you're in my world now.
Do you really think you've won? Fear makes you predictable. I
I am in complete control.
Barbara's mantle, previously held by Kimberly Brooks, went to Ashley Green.
I've run a simulation. Joker's blood could be in as many as 2,000 people by the morning. The first fatalities are expected soon after that.
Bruce, I spoke to Dad. I hate lying to him. He'd kill me if he knew I was still in the city. He still blames himself for this.
And Gordon C. constantly found new posteriors, the current one being Jonathan Banks from the Breaking Bad series.
I'll get my men off the streets, but I'm going nowhere. You bring anyone you find to me.
Jim, it's too dangerous.
You'll stop him. I know you will.
There are a couple of other examples, but new characters are brought into the mix, such as Lucius Fox, played by the one and only, the legendary Dave Fennoy.
Hello again, Mr. Wayne. How can I help you this time?
Is the power winch ready for deployment?
It's 100% functional, though no guarantees if you're intending to pull that car of yours up the side of a building.
This man played Lee Everett. How could Rocksteady not hire him? I didn't mind the voice changes or most of the returning cast, but there was one character I could not tolerate. Tara Strong as Harley Quinn. Harley's voice is always loud and high-pitched, as if she regressed to being a snot-nosed brat.
If I was you, I'd check to see if these coppers got Ivy on the wire.
Oh, would you speak in English, please? I'm Batman! Get it? Batman!
Keep it quiet. You don't want to attract too much attention.
No can do, Blubberpot. Quiet ain't in my vocabulary.
I don't blame Tara Strong for this. She played Harley Quinn in Arkham City, and I thought she was close enough to Arlene Sorkin. The one voice she does well in this game is Harleen, who appears when Harley uses her brand of detective vision.
Harley, listen to reason.
I am assuming that this was the direction Tara was given, probably to emphasize how time as a crime boss made her a whiner and a loudmouth. The criminals and the Knight's militia are who you will be hearing as you traverse the world. Thugs can vary in personality from scum of the earth to having just a touch of humanity in them.
Remind me to hit a toy shop before we leave. Told my kid I was gonna buy him a present. At least when Commissioner Loeb was in charge, you could grease a few palms, you know, get some perks. No way that was happening under Gordon. He ruined it for everyone. Wherever that old bastard is, I hope he's suffering.
For the Knight's militia, they are very much an army of ex-special operatives, and will even cite their previous endeavors before joining the assault on Gotham.
There were some prisoners back when I was in the army. They'd killed like 10 of our guys. So we gave them what they deserved. Good. I know, right? But since I let the gas in, it's like they're right behind me, still screaming. And what, man? And I think they want to hurt me.
They're also the more professional faction, yelling out the locations of fallen squad mates during Predator sections and talking more analytically.
What happened to him? It's Batman. He's here. Are you sure? Yeah, look at him. That's the profile. Picking up a signal here. Got noise everywhere. I'm searching for a lock-on. What's the calibration on that drone? Don't worry. So much as breeze, this thing will find him.
Helps in differentiating the militia from the criminals and even from the Tiger units from Arkham City. Arkham Knight's guys aren't brainwashed soldiers, but human beings who either defected from or were burned by their government. Now, let's talk about gameplay. I'm starting this off with the controls first, specifically mouse and keyboard. Arkham Knight has had some weird alterations, such as special moves having 2 button inputs instead of just 1, the latter being something I liked about Arkham City. This was probably to make way for the Batmobile controls and other stuff, but in a very unintuitive way. Thankfully, the controls are highly customizable, so I could revert almost everything to the original scheme. Still, the Xbox controller became the best method for several reasons. One is that the control scheme is already good from the get-go. There is another reason, but that's for later. For exploration, gliding does have a few minor tweaks. You have more control over where you eject from a roof's edge, whether sideways or backwards, and dive bombing has more of an impact on how long you glide. There are upgrades to launch off higher and at faster speeds. Still, they're not too important in comparison to the Batmobile. I admit that I had some trouble driving it at first. Mostly, this was because I was coming off of Halo, where you steer with the mouse. In Arkham Knight, all movement revolves around the keyboard, while the mouse buttons are for the afterburner and to morph into a tank. When I did get used to it, driving around Gotham is smooth, fast, and more enjoyable than gliding. There are certain places where you can even drive on walls. Why don't we have cars like that yet, Elon Musk? Chases are also intense when it's the militia, since they'll have missiles you have to dodge. You can crash into or destroy them, but it results in a slow-mo camera. I didn't particularly appreciate it because it briefly takes focus away, but you can control it and direct your sights forward again. Overall, I like the driving aspect. It adds much needed variety to traversal, and it's satisfying to ram anything and everything. Knowing that video game logic will proclaim the person alive or reconstruct environments as if the demo squad were on standby. Then there's the tank function.
It's a black tank.
Besides infantry, Arkham Knight has also brought remote-controlled drones in many sizes and flavors. They can shoot straight at you with a ballistic missile or three, or even use the lock-on variety. So, naturally, Batman somehow anticipated an all-out tank doomstack and came with pre-installed weapons. A cannon for general use, a minigun to shoot weak points, and a few others that you get further into the game. My favorite has to be the drone hack, since my new minions could take some of the pressure off. It is out of place for Batman to have a tank, but I don't think anyone had a problem with it. I looked back at the E3 demo and haven't seen one comment pointing out that Batman would never drive a tank or get into duels with other tanks. Certain nitpicks like, why do they not strap people onto the tanks, weren't a thing until the game released. So why do people have problems with this mechanic? Well, the tank battles, and the Batmobile stuff in general, takes up half of the optional and mandatory missions. It would have been fine if the fights and chases were very few and sparse. I've destroyed over 100 tanks here, and it feels like going against an RTS AI with access to unlimited resources. There are even puzzles with the Batmobile that are creative, but feel more prominent than the ones that Batman does on foot. Suffice to say, I didn't mind this, but other people have thresholds that were diminished at a certain point. With such an emphasis on the Batmobile, how does Arkham Knight treat regular combat? I can safely say that the core gameplay remains intact, with a few additions and notable changes. First off, the animations in combat are slick. Previous games had some excellent animations, but they always had a bit of choppiness if you observed them. Batman's attacks and counters now blend seamlessly, while enemy attacks look more natural. Does that make combat easier? Yes and no. One notable change is that the free flow focus no longer slows down time, but doubles damage while the yellow bar is full. This is pure speculation, but you could keep free flow focus up indefinitely in Arkham City, and never use anything else. I mean, why would you? You're almost invincible while it's active. The change was most likely to encourage the use of other mechanics. The result is that combat is both easy and hard. Regular enemies attack more slowly, even on hard, and counter indicators can appear much sooner. Still, there are enemies like brutes whose punches come almost lightning fast. Even ninjas' swords and criminal shivs have increased speeds. Where it is hardest is New Game Plus, since there is so much going on that you are scrambling to attack while being more defensive. The ease of difficulty also comes from gadgets, specifically the Batclaw. What used to be a move used with caution is one of the safest to use in the game. Seriously, no one will attack you while the animation is playing. It's almost a get out of jail card. It doesn't encourage spamming the move, at least not for me. Still, it is a game changer. As for enemies, brutes now have blades, shields, and even their own brand of shock gloves while replacing Arkham City's armored enemies. Ninjas have a couple of new attacks, and countering them looks like something out of Ip Man and Dragon Ball Z. There are also combat medics who can revive fallen soldiers or turn them into static shock, which means using gadgets, not direct hits. Also, regular guys can grab you from behind, which can be countered, or charge at you, which sets up an instant takedown with the Batarang. Overall, the enemy variety is honestly lacking. While playing things safe, Arkham Origins introduced some much needed innovation with new types of thugs. I would have loved to fight the martial artists occasionally. Instead, they and the armored criminals are missing. Sure, they do enhance existing enemies with moves that encourage or even require the use of gadgets. Still, I can't help but think there was a lot of missed potential. As for Batman himself, he does have a few exciting changes. Remember the throw move from Arkham Asylum? It returns as a counter move that may do more damage than a standard counter. The explosive gel is no longer a floor trap, but a projectile. There are environmental interactions now, which... Okay, there's no getting around it anymore. That guy's dead, he's very dead, and I'm pretty sure Gotham's hospitals have mastered necromancy. These takedowns, while useful, run on Looney Tunes logic. There are other interactions though. For example, you can now pick up and use bats with limited durability, but make up for it by bulldozing through every weight. These are the shock glove replacements. Why can't I just use the shock gloves? Give me the shock glove! There have been environmental interactions before, but they were more of a reaction to a criminal's movements. Here, you are actively throwing boxes and picking up stuff. Rocksteady could have gone further and let us use stun batons and shields, each with their uses or mechanics. Just food for thought. Then there's the team takedown mechanic. At certain times, Batman will find himself paired up with others, and you can switch between them at any time, as well as defeat criminals, well, as a team. This mechanic is great, not for the takedown, but in making characters like Catwoman more playable and giving them a spotlight. Then there are the Predator sections, where the improvements are most apparent. Arkham Knight's militia has come prepared with the usual stuff and new toys like drones, scanners that can find you when using detective vision, and even armor that hides from your electronic vision but lights up the wearer in neon blue. The Brutes are here too, and carrying miniguns. Still, Batman has new toys to counter their toys. He's got a new disruptor, which takes some of Origins' innovations, such as the ability to turn gun boxes into traps, and new abilities such as messing with the militia's gear. Then there is the new and improved remote hacking device. Absolutely no relation at all. It can hack into drone controls and cause it to turn against enemies, blind drones, and even blow up certain environmental objects to take enemies down. Finally, there is the voice synthesizer. It's meant to replace the sonic batarang as a lure or distraction, and I prefer this. Since it impersonates certain villains' voices, you can command henchmen to do things that the sonic batarang could not, such as opening disrupted gun boxes. The synthesizer has a lot more versatility in the opportunities I could exploit. That's not all. The Arkham Knight communicates with his soldiers and tells them to change tactics whenever you do certain moves. Use the vantage point? Mind. Impersonated Arkham Knight? Change the channel. Use the floor grates? Burn, baby, burn. It amplifies the AI's intelligence in meaningful ways and forces you to adapt. The one significant mechanic is the fear takedown. In open world ambushes, you can line up a set number of takedowns to do, which you can increase via the Wayne Tech menu, and the animations, while janky, are flashy enough. In Predator sections, you can only use it once and then have to take someone down silently in order to be able to do it again. Compared to the other mark and execute mechanics, I think this one isn't the most egregious. It's versatile enough, and comes in handy in New Game Plus, where you'd want to deal with as little resistance and visual interference as possible. However, Predator sections in New Game Plus are insignificant, as is a lot about New Game Plus in general. While removing indicators felt challenging, enemy placements weren't shifted around. If they were, it wasn't noticeable. It's still fun to play through, but you won't see anything that makes you think, "Whoa, they placed this enemy here?" There is one more thing to discuss, which made the PC controls feel inferior. The silent takedowns have a lot more variety and range, even replacing certain loud moves from Arkham City. This is both a blessing and a curse. Takedowns from the corner and ledge are more immediate than before, and you can jump down from certain perches to catch an enemy unaware. Still, the button is very context sensitive. You could mean to get at a gadget since both actions are on the same button, but do a takedown instead. It got so bad that I switched to the Xbox controller, which has aiming and silent takedown as different buttons. This might be a nitpick, and there are a couple ways around it, but this became an annoyance, especially during challenge maps. Oh, and the Batmobile has stealth sections. Why did developers think stealth sections with cars were ever a good idea back then? Is that even a thing in real life? It's okay, I guess, but nobody asked for this nor wanted to do it 3 to 4 times. Still, New Game Plus and car stealth pale compared to the disappointment that is the bosses. Rocksteady, what the heck happened here? You were on the right path with boss fights in Arkham City and could have taken notes from Origins. Instead, Arkham Knight has semi-lame boss fights with either tanks or helicopters, whose health bars I melted in New Game Plus. There are chases and other engagements that the game deems to be bosses, but I would never call them that since they're overhyped versions of said engagements. I don't know what Rocksteady was thinking, but I fully agree with the critics here. This is the most disappointing aspect of this game. Now, something I wanted to talk about earlier but couldn't find a proper place for it was investigations. Arkham Knight does them decently. It has more variations, such as searching camera footage, tracking fingerprints, and identifying dead bodies via abnormalities. Yet, the extraordinary investigations from Origins don't have a significant presence. There is one, maybe two if we're talking about a loose definition of visual reconstruction. I don't mind the added variations, but I wanted more of this. With that, let's talk about additional content. Side missions range from excellent to okay. Most of them consist of very similar objectives. Stop Two-Face's men from robbing banks, hunt down Penguin's trucks and destroy the weapons caches, disable bombs after dealing with enemy waves, disable outposts and checkpoints, the usual you'd expect from open world games. I don't mind repeated objectives or missions so long as there is variation in how you tackle individual locations. For example, checkpoints and towers have said variation. Some can be taken in hand-to-hand combat, others are predator encounters. The most memorable act as puzzles, such as how to get the Batmobile in or sleuth around to line up a perfect fear takedown. Yet, some missions boil down to forgettable tasks. Chase down APCs, chase down Firefly, follow Penguin's trucks to their destination. They can be tense, but lose their luster after 2 or 3 missions. A couple are one-offs that end way too soon. However, my favorites are examining bodies and saving the firefighters, both having mysteries that evolve as you pursue them. Then there's the Season of Infamy DLC. In short, it's the equivalent of cut content that's usually restored through mods, just with a price tag. One significant side mission is Riddler's, which is back to how it was in Arkham City, thank goodness. There are stakes now because Catwoman was kidnapped and strapped with an explosive collar. Puzzles are now challenging and varied again, especially ones where Catwoman has to help, dripping with creativity while still being logical. Even the Batmobile puzzles were challenging and engaging, requiring the use of the car's different gadgets. Then there are the Riddler bots, which are the most durable enemy type in combat, and the most malleable manservants when using the voice synthesizer. There are other additions such as races against time or others requiring multitasking, but nothing that felt impossible. Plus, Riddler's snark and anger are back.
Congratulations, Detective. 100 riddles solved. Fittingly, it took you a century, too. Congratulations, Dark Knight. Now, I know it's exhausting, but think of your brain as a muscle and these riddles as, I don't know, push-ups, crunches, curls, whatever it is your kind does when confronted with a gym mat. Ah, this one's particularly ingenious, Detective. You'll be stuck for... What? Already? No! How did you... The dolts I hired must have failed to construct the riddle according to instructions.
My favorite has to be his overreaction to Batman being able to control his robots, showing how egomaniacal he really is.
How is that possible? They're not supposed to obey orders from anyone with a sub-150 IQ. How are you doing this? Those robots are unhackable. I made sure of it. They should obey me, not you. I am their creator and their god. I literally programmed a basic religion into those malfunctioning blasphemers.
How narcissistic do you have to be to program your robots to consider you a god? Unfortunately, the downside to Riddler's challenges, and pretty much all of the side content in general, is that there's just too much. Riddler's trophies and riddles increase in quantity every game, and by the time I got them all, I was glad it was over. I only completed this side mission and others because of how they contributed to the story. More on that in the spoilers. Plus, a lot of Riddler's gauntlets are ludicrous. He somehow managed to build underground raceways and death puzzles, which do challenge how you use the Batmobile, but scream that Riddler is a billionaire. His hideaways in Arkham City hinted that he has many resources, but these are just ridiculous. If Riddler wasn't obsessed with Batman, he could just retire to some tropical island and build a private mansion. That's how rich he is. Then there are the challenges outside of the story. Seeing all this, you may think that this is an impressive lineup of content to take on. Well, guess what? Most of it is DLC content. Do you want to know how many challenges each category had at launch? A total of 4 combat maps and 4 Predator maps, with the rest being dedicated to the Batmobile races or tank battles. There aren't any standard or extreme difficulties, it's just the maps and whatever makes them different. This was the advent of video game publishers trying new forms of monetization by promising future DLC, which you can either buy standalone or have early access to via a pass that costs as much as the game itself. Stuff like this isn't always bad if the new content is as good or better than the current game, which these maps are, don't get me wrong. It's just that Arkham Knight's idea of DLC versus previous games is egregious. Most early DLC are places you could go to in the open world during side content or the main story. There is a reason I played on multiple save slots when the game came out. It was the only way I could play anything the challenge maps did not cover. Only in the last few DLC packs were there any unique maps or races. These were suggested by members of the Arkham fan community, which is a nice gesture. Still, the number of maps on launch versus DLC is staggering. Previous games had fewer DLC maps, but more than enough on launch, and with varying difficulties. I understand wanting to capitalize on a franchise, but why not have a lot of maps available at the beginning and release a few pieces of quality DLC? Besides the maps, a few characters came out along with some story arcs that are either prequels or sequels to the main game. The returning Arkham City characters retain their toolkits with 1 or 2 things added or taken away. So I'll just be focusing on the newcomers. Azrael was a side mission character in Arkham City, and is still one in Arkham Knight. This time though, he wants to take Batman's place as Gotham's protector by undergoing Batman's trials. Put frankly, he's just Batman light. All of his moves and gadgets are ripped from Batman. It makes sense for the story, though somewhat nonsensical for stealth. It just feels like they copied Batman's model, replaced it with Azrael's textures, bada bing bada boom. This leads to Azrael feeling like lost potential. I wanted to be able to play a hooded knight parrying and slashing with a sword. Let me have the sword! Then there's Batgirl and her DLC story, which takes place a few years before Asylum. She doesn't stand out from Batman all that much besides animations. Her story takes place in an abandoned amusement park, which has some fantastic art direction, and there are moments where I went, okay, this was not meant to be experienced by children, even though a rich guy made it to entertain his daughter. There are also environmental interactions, such as turning off lights or a massive distraction, which can help make short work of a few criminals. Then there's Red Hood, who has pre-ordered DLC for a while. Wonder how he fits into the story. He has a minimal kit like Catwoman, with a flashbang, grapple, and guns. Yep, Red Hood is deadly here, no matter what he does. Even if it's something considered non-lethal with other characters. For stealth, Red Hood has a bit of a cheesy strategy. It goes a little something like this. Complete the objectives, grapple to a point, then spray and pray. You never get detected so long as you move somewhere just a little ways away. Brain dead strat, still a great character. At least in other media. Finally, there's Harley Quinn, also carrying a minimal kit somewhat geared for killing. What makes her stand out is that, in Predator sections, everything she does is loud. She's basically a guerrilla fighter. Take down, retreat, and repeat ad nauseum. She also has a rage meter which builds up after every hit and takedown, essentially acting as a fear takedown for stealth and combat. Fun character overall, with a unique playstyle. Alternate costumes exist, and they still look good. There are even skins and variations of the Batmobile. However, they're pulled from more relevant and well-known media, not anything obscure as in previous games. They also fit well with the graphical fidelity, but I have noticed one or two costumes with bad facial animations. Finally, I had to save the Wayne Tech menu for last since it is tied with the content. It is nothing like Arkham Origins menu, thank goodness, and it also has upgrades for the Batmobile's driving and weapons. However, the first time through, I could not get every single ability since there are so many, and later upgrades become expensive the more you go down the trees. The fastest way to get the points you need is side content since each phase you complete rewards you for them. Do you know what else rewards skill points? Challenge maps. Yeah, the highest score gives you a point each. So what happens after you get all of the skills? The skill counter becomes a score counter, encouraging you to get the maximum score. I feel no such compulsion since there are other things I could be doing, like Halo Wars 2. Still, I don't have any strong feelings about this. It's fine for replayability, but it's not a compelling incentive. To wrap up my thoughts on gameplay, I want to address some of the criticisms I have seen online. I agree that the Batmobile takes up a sizable amount of game time, but you can do plenty of content without it and switch to gliding if you want to. Plus, others like me say gliding gets boring after a while, which is one of the reasons Rocksteady implemented driving in the first place. I have seen others point out aspects from previous games being removed, like a special move or the Sonic Batarang, in favor of implementing the environmental and team takedowns. I can see how this can be upsetting for some who have relied on these for specific situations. However, these were moves that I rarely, if ever, used, and I consider the voice synthesizer to be an overall improvement for the opportunities it gives you versus the Batarang itself. Also, switching between characters mixed up gameplay and let them be in the story more and flesh them out. Even back then, I considered most of these minor nitpicks. I appreciate Rocksteady for taking risks and experimenting with gameplay, finding out what works and what doesn't. That doesn't mean the criticisms aren't valid or I don't understand where they're coming from. I just don't let other people's opinions sway my own. In the end, it's my experience, even if it makes me a contrarian. This extends to Arkham Knight's story because I think this is one of the best in the series, behind Arkham Asylum and Shadow. Yeah, it does have a few diverging plot lines, but they don't go on some tangent to be explored later, like in Arkham City. There are moments that fall flat or have a couple of holes in logic, but not like the ones in the latter half of Arkham Origins. It is a much more condensed, focused narrative, and even when it does take a detour, it doesn't do so for too long and informs other plot reveals later on. Also, one of the best aspects of this story is how personal it gets with Batman. Previous games have shown tidbits of Batman's psyche and how he is affected by the events. But this game's plot isn't just a superhero saves the day narrative. It centers around Batman as a person. Rocksteady's writers have learned from their past games, and it shows. To demonstrate means going into spoilers, where I will go over each plot arc in order of importance and bring up a few more criticisms to put them into perspective. If you just want my conclusion, go here. So, the first half of the game shows Batman tracking down Scarecrow, reintroducing characters, and hinting at other arcs. He eventually finds Scarecrow at Ace Chemicals, creating a bomb that will cover the entire eastern US. You sneak, fight, and puzzle solve your way in, and seemingly corner Scarecrow, but he reveals the ace up his sleeve.
Let me go, or she dies.
What are you talking about?
Barbara Gordon.
Have you found him?
Get out of there, now!
Relax. No one knows I'm here.
This is starting to feel familiar. Whatever. With Scarecrow gone, Batman does his best to reduce the bomb's blast radius and hopefully save the...
Miss me?
Kind of. And we're immediately flung back into a flashback where we're playing as Gordon. Off to our right, we can see a rarity. Gotham drenched in daylight. Downstairs, we find...
Commissioner, thank God. You have to get me out of here.
Batman keeping a prisoner. Why would he...
Miss me already, Bats? Oh, it's you, Commissioner Boredom.
Oh no.
You are the police commissioner.
It can't be.
What do you want, pig? Coming in here eyeballing me.
These are the Joker cosplayers from that rejected Batman game, aren't they? Ah! Dude, warn us next time. Okay, these aren't cosplayers, but people infected by Joker's blood during Arkham City. Instead of killing them, as it did to many others, they went through something called... Batman, what was it called again?
It's a form of Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease.
Thanks. However, this guy, Henry Adams, is seemingly immune, and Batman believes that whatever his case is, it can lead to others being cured.
Wait. You said 5. I only count 4. There's one missing.
He'll be here soon.
Oh.
Bruce. Can you hear me, Bruce?
So, this is the first logic hole. The game tells us that Batman's exposure to Joker's blood and Scarecrow's toxin is leading to hallucinations. This was hinted to be a side effect in Arkham City, but Batman was also cured of Joker's blood by the end of that game. I do have a theory of hallucination Joker, but it would take too long to explain in this video. For now, just know that Joker here is one of the best aspects for a couple of reasons. One of them is Mark Hamill's return, and his lines are just the best.
Well, Batman, old boy, this is quite the dilemma, isn't it? Do you save the incompetent friend who got herself kidnapped, or the incompetent friend who got herself kidnapped? Two-Face and Penguin loose in our city? We need to show them who's boss. So, whose throat are we gonna slit first? Please, what are you doing? Bats, come on! Don't lock me in here. I'll do anything. Want your laundry done? I'll do it. Help out, Alfred. You got it. I wouldn't like to be that guy.
Second, it is where things get personal for Batman. Over the course of the game, we see how events like Barbara's kidnapping drive wedges between him and Gordon, and lead to his lying to Robin, which definitely affects him despite his stoic manner.
I think that went quite well, considering. Of course, I wouldn't have told him, but that's why it's so liberating being me. Oh, that's how very me of you. Though I can see why you didn't tell him after old Jimbo's hysterical overreaction.
What Joker spouts are Batman's inner doubts, fears, and unwanted desires, which he does his best to push down. Some of Joker's lines serve as Batman's gut feeling and intuition, reminding the player that he is a part of Batman, not a resurrected character.
You know what I hate about this Arkham Knight? It seemed personal. Like he's not really in it for the giddy thrill of causing pain. Loser. Now, I know your track record with partners in crime isn't that great. Tell me, there is a healthcare plan, right? Can you remember when it was simple? Back in the old days when it was just you, me, a regular war against crime? Well, take a look, Bats. Things change. Now it's just war, with you standing right bang in the center.
Most of the time, Joker induces Batman to cut loose and cross the line, become the very thing Batman fears, a killer.
Come on, finish him. Look at him. He's no better than the creep who killed your parents. You need to do something. You need to stop him. Good.
There are a couple of times where Joker tries to take over Batman's mind, whether via Joker clones or by controlling Batman's body and laying a brutal beatdown on enemies. You can also physically see how firm Joker's hold on Batman's mind is. His scars at the beginning heal over time and become less noticeable, and he starts appearing on statues and posters that change their innocent implications. Joker is the devil on Batman's shoulder, and is a fitting figure for this role. Who else can talk down on Batman like this, and confront him with harsh truths?
So let's recap. Barbara's kidnapped, and let's face it, probably dead. You're lying to Loverboy Wonder about it, and dear old Jim's marched off on his lonesome to save the day. Not your best day at the office, Bats. Something on your mind?
As for the infected, they are found by none other than Harley Quinn. We get there and help Robin and Henry round up the others. Each are in their own part of the movie studios, and getting to them is different. Christina's is a Predator section where we are introduced to the team's stealth takedowns, making short work of the brutes. Johnny's is a music show with bombs, but Hallucination Joker hijacks Batman's senses to sing instead.
Take it away, boys. Take me on home. To the asylum. Never alone. In the asylum.
Robin disarms them one at a time, and you take Johnny down. Goliath's is an unremarkable boss fight. Enough said. We take down Harley and put everyone back into their...
No, no, no!
Don't move, Robin. You killed them, didn't you, Henry?
Oh, Bats! You're so easy. Desperate to see the good in people. Especially when they're bad.
Well, this was somewhat unexpected. If you listen carefully to Batman's logs, you'll realize that Henry's been acting out of sorts after he got infected.
Henry Adams is an anomaly. He has been infected the longest, having received a blood transfusion following the successful hip replacement operation. After returning to work, staff reported that he had changed for the better, having become both calmer and more friendly.
As for how Harley got involved, Henry sought her out and told her about the other infected. So this was planned long in advance. Yet, what he hadn't told Harley was that he intended to kill them all so that he was the only one left. But when it came to Batman...
Now that's
unexpected. You're gonna be spectacular.
Robin realizes that Batman's the last Joker and prompts him to make the right choice of going into his cell. So, Batman, being the man he is, locks Robin in there instead. Again, it is Joker's fault, but it's not just because of goading. While finding the infected, Batman flashes back to Jason Todd being tortured and eventually killed by Joker, a representation of how Batman fears for his friends and family being killed in his crusade, that others will die because of him, which actually happens earlier when Scarecrow gasses Barbara and...
You won't get me. I won't let you get me.
You will bring death to all who follow you.
You can try to do the right thing, but it's always an hallucination. There is only one choice to make in the moment, but something optional afterward that I always feel obligated to do.
Barbara's... she's dead. I'm sorry.
Let me out.
I can't. They're targeting everyone close to me. I won't let them get you as well.
Bruce, please. I have to do this.
No.
You son of a bitch! How dare you! You don't get to decide! Get away from me! Go!
With all that said, does Joker's presence overshadow villains like Scarecrow, as other people have exclaimed? In my opinion, no. Scarecrow has always been a fascinating villain, even in Arkham Asylum. If you look through his audio logs and listen to his PAs, he has a very Lovecraftian stance on fear. He sees it as the very basis of human psychology, what motivates people to do anything.
What is it about fear that drives your obsession?
Fear drives everything, Stephen. Everything. Your life is governed by fear. Every decision you make is a product of that fear.
Don't be ridiculous.
You married your wife. Margaret, isn't it? Because you were scared of dying alone. You have children because you're scared of leaving nothing behind that really matters. You go to the doctors because you're scared of dying. Do I need to go on?
I once searched for terror in chemistry. I thought perfectly arranged atoms could unlock the demons in a man's mind. You proved me wrong.
Through Batman's own interferences, Scarecrow concludes that the best antidote for fear is hope, which Batman is a symbol of. He wants to tear Batman and what he represents down, make him suffer and humiliate him to prove Scarecrow's point. Scarecrow is a fascinating villain, a what-if scenario of Lovecraft being a villain instead of an author. So why does Rocksteady make him look incompetent throughout 3/4 of the game? Create a fear gas bomb to cover the entire eastern seaboard? Thwarted. Outsource the construction of a fear gas dispersal tank? Get Poison Ivy to erase all of it as if nothing ever happened. Though her sacrificing her life was noble, even if forced. Scarecrow blows it off every time and says, "This is only a fraction of what I have in store." Even though he also complains about losing essential stuff. One guy on YouTube said that the game should have taken place over several nights, something I initially dismissed because it requires forgetting that Batman stopped Strange, Joker, and Ra's al Ghul in one night, on 2 separate occasions. Now though, I agree with this sentiment since Scarecrow burned through 3 huge plans which either he or Arkham Knight fumbled. The only successful plan was capturing Barbara and building up Batman's doubts and fears for a huge portion of the game. It's what brings back memories of Jason and drives Batman to lock Robin in a cell. Scarecrow's ultimate goal seems to be wearing down Batman, which he does confirm through his announcements.
Do you take pride in what you have reduced them to? The mewling babes your assaults exposed? I will do that to you, Dark Knight. I will peel back every layer of the Batman before the night is through.
Still, he could have done this by hunting down or luring Batman's friends and family, which could have been the main plan, while the more elaborate stuff could have been a last-ditch effort if he failed. Scarecrow is excellent in personality, but not as a long-term strategic thinker. Oh, and the Arkham Knight turns out to be Jason Todd, aka Red Hood. He then becomes Red Hood. In Rocksteady's defense, Arkham's Jason stands out for his motivation to kill Batman. He blames Batman for not saving him, for allowing him to be manipulated and tortured by the Joker. This isn't a Red Hood provoked by hatred for criminals who shouldn't be alive, but rather by being abandoned when he held out for as long as possible.
Joker sent me the film. I saw him kill you.
Don't you dare lie to me! How long did you wait before replacing me, huh? A month? A week? I trusted you! And you just left me to die!
That's not what happened.
You always told me, Bruce. Focus on what I want to achieve, and it'll happen. You wanna know what I want now? I want you dead.
In fact, I consider Batman's flashbacks as a sort of gut feeling, that he knows that the Arkham Knight is potentially Jason, who fits the MO of somebody who hates him enough to see him dead. However, Rocksteady messed this up long before the game was released, advertising the Arkham Knight as an original character. Yet, everyone already had ideas about who the Arkham Knight was, one of them being Jason Todd. There's also the fact that Troy Baker, the voice for Robin in Arkham City, was replaced by Matthew Mercer to instead play Jason Todd, which you can see on IMDb. I would say that Arkham Knight is an original variant of Red Hood, but an entirely new character? Absolutely not. So, while Joker is great and does play an important role, he doesn't overshadow anyone else. Instead, the problem lies in how the writers handle the other characters. Still, I stand by what I said before. The improvements to focus and how the arcs converge and inform each other makes this one of the better Arkham stories. It isn't perfect, but neither are any of the Arkham games' narratives, even if they are enjoyable to play. Arkham Knight just shows how much the writers have learned since Arkham City. However, I've only covered the overall picture. How these arcs conclude is what matters. Gordon goes after Scarecrow, but gets captured for the third time in the series. Batman goes off to save him, and Arkham Knight pops up in a drill and chases you around. Apparently, he's angry enough to not notice that these tunnels have active explosives. Batman does get cornered, but pops out just in the nick of time. So, am I supposed to be glad since there might be no more tank battles? Or mad that the only variation to traveling is destroyed? Knight catches up with us and reveals himself as Todd. We already went through this, so headbutt the man so he becomes Red Hood. Now, it's time! For a boss fight that's worse than Titan Joker. You just stealth your way to Red Hood's perch, grapple up, try to convince him to return to the light, then pick off a horde of enemies. Repeat ad nauseum. It's not totally easy per se, but it's not a boss fight. It's just a glorified Predator encounter to introduce the optic deflection armor soldiers. It ends with Batman saying, "I'm sorry," which convinces Red Hood to stand down. Somehow. We cut Gordon free and proceed up to
Jim, look out!
We deal with the Shock Brood and his goons, then we head into the elevator, leading to one of the best exchanges between Batman and Gordon.
You know, you see a lot in this job, a lot of pain, a lot of suffering. But I'll never forget taking a witness statement from an 8-year-old boy who'd just seen his parents gunned down.
You were kind, Jim.
I was thinking, I may never get a chance to tell you this, to say sorry.
You don't need to.
We're the same, Bruce. We'd do anything for our family.
Then
Time for what?
we go to face down Scarecrow in an epic...
Jim.
What the...
I'm sorry. It was the only way. Get me my daughter.
Dad!
What the...
Barbara.
Okay, pause. Go back. We weren't in the gas chamber where Barbara was. How could... Was it that vent up there leaking the gas? Or are we supposed to believe that Batman was still affected by Scarecrow dousing him beforehand? The only clue that this was a ploy was Joker, hallucination Joker, moving Barbara's gun. I will also assume that Scarecrow was listening to what Batman was hallucinating. It's the only reason he knows how to taunt Batman about the fake death. Gordon shoots Batman, Scarecrow throws Barbara off the building, but Batman manages to catch her.
I thought Dad killed you.
He knew what he was doing.
You haven't explained how you suspended yourself long enough to catch Barbara. Gordon gets captured for the 4th time in this series. I'm starting to think he shouldn't be commissioner anymore. Scarecrow sends a bunch of tanks and fires on Batman and Barbara, killing them within a matter of seconds. Nah, I'm just messing with ya. Of course Batman's got an extra Batmobile, even though Lucius said that there was only one. Whatever. Unleash Armageddon! Okay, Barbara, time to go. I will admit that her being alive is a weak reveal and invalidates Batman's struggles, but part of me is glad she's alive.
Where's Tim? Is he okay?
I left him at the movie studios. He's fine.
Sure. Barbara tries to hack into the clock tower servers to find Scarecrow, as if that's supposed to work somehow, and we head there to do so manually. But first, I feel obligated to do this.
I found Barbara. She's fine.
Oh, you're still locked in here, though. Bye-bye.
After giving Barbara the access she needs, GCPD comes under a mass-scale assault. It's somewhat elaborate and fun, defending the interior on foot, getting everything back in order, all for it to lead to one last stand, a la the 2 towers, and stopping one last push on the rooftops. It feels like the end of the game, but it isn't. Barbara found Scarecrow's location, and it's the movie studios. Oh crud, it was a distraction! Robin has been captured. Scarecrow contacts you and tells you the only way to ensure Robin's freedom is to come by and prepare to unmask yourself. Barbara grills you on leaving Robin in a cell, and from here, you can finish everything up, if you're a masochist, or drop by right now. Joker will have differing dialogue for both.
Why give up? There's so much more fun to be had out there. Think about it. All those heads to smash, all those bones to break. It's like the world's greatest theme park and you're crying to get off the ride. So this is the end. No bones left to break. No heads left to crack. No pinky fingers left to, sort of bend backwards into a custom-made vice and slowly crush while you apply electric shocks to your victim's eyeballs. Oh, I always knew I'd be there when you died, Bats. I just didn't realize I'd be in your head.
Batman gets taken away by a truck, and Scarecrow does some more gloating. We find ourselves in Crime Alley, which looks nothing like the one from Arkham City, as well as the bodies of Bruce's long-dead parents. Joker's going to show up, isn't he?
Such a happy couple.
Yep.
Shame about the kid, though. Poor little Brucey never quite got over it now, did he? Well, there's no point crying over spilled blood. It's time to move on, kiddo. Let go. Take a load off. Join your parents. Uncle Jay will take it from here.
Multiple Jokers come in by the dozen, and this is where Batman starts to change. His finishers become more brutal, almost lethal. Well, in terms of comic book logic. When just one Joker is left, he goads us into killing him. Like with the option of going into the cell or not, there is no real choice. You can hear what Joker has to say though.
Who will I kill next? Gordon? Lucius? That bumbling old butler of yours? Oh, that's your problem, isn't it, Bats? You just can't keep hold of a family for very long. Even the ones who come back end up hating you. But can you blame them? Everyone close to you gets tortured, kidnapped, or killed.
Here, Joker dies. But not really, though. In fact, he has never looked better.
No denying it this time. You've got the mind of a killer. And that mind is mine. It's over, Bruce. You crossed the blood-red line. And now Scarecrow's going to set me free.
After this, a very familiar scene plays out as our destination is none other than Arkham Asylum. Scarecrow drags Batman on a table and into the mansion. Poison Ivy's vine still visible in the background, and Gordon and Robin held hostage.
I don't care who you are, but they will. I'm going to rob them of hope. As they stare into your eyes, they will blame you. Failure will have a face and a name.
Hey, Scarecrow, did you forget all your botched plans? Statistically, you're the failure here. Well, that doesn't matter since this is the most infamous moment in all of comic book history. For me at least. Batman being unmasked was like a wow moment. There wasn't some contrived excuse for the unmasking not having worked out. No interruption to the signal, no one to stop it from happening. It's like watching Return of the King and seeing Frodo give in to the temptations of the ring in Mount Doom, thinking no. Just no. This can't be how it ends. Scarecrow decides that Batman's failure isn't complete without more fear toxin, sending him deep into his subconscious fears of becoming the Joker. This is probably one of the best moments in the game, showing us a Batman finally cutting loose and annihilating every single criminal with the Joker-mobile. He then pursues the others on foot, shotgun in tow. There is some agency in this section, like choosing to let Penguin live.
I changed my mind.
Or not. You can shoot Riddler or his hostage first. You can be the Joker with restraint, or give in to pure chaos when facing criminals.
Stop. Stop this madness. Please.
But everything here shows that Jokerized Batman has no chill. Joker takes control of Batman for a time, but Scarecrow isn't having it with seemingly fearless Batman and injects even more toxin.
Bats? Is that you? Oh, Bats!
Wait. What's happening? Am I supposed to be...
Ah, good times.
We're in some kind of hallway, showing Joker being burned, a statue of him left unattended, Harley Quinn being the only one to attend Joker's funeral. Oh! And Batman statue. All the while, Joker goes from questioning what's happening to being livid at the prospect of being forgotten.
Oh, wait a minute. This isn't my grave. Oh, no, it's too small. It's all overgrown. Where's the head? Harley? Stop your sobbing and rustle me up awake! Harley! Harley! Oh, you think that's scary, Bats? When I get out of here, I'll write my name in blood on every street corner. I'll carve it on every corpse. No one's forgetting me!
We're surrounded by a multitude of Batman statues, a similar tactic employed by the hallucination Joker, and there is seemingly no end to them. Is this Rocksteady finally getting a horror section right? This isn't the scariest moment in the Arkham series. Arkham Asylum Scarecrow levels are still the best horror sections in the game. Still, Arkham Knight beats the Killer Croc and Shark sections. The atmosphere is haunting with the prevalence of shadows, the flashlight being your only mode of visibility, and Batman's scare tactic works. Just watch any playthrough that gets to this point. It all ends with Joker seemingly finding the exit. But then...
You're afraid of being ashes. You're afraid of being forgotten. And you will be forgotten, Joker. Because of me. I am vengeance.
I am the Knight. I am Batman.
We then switch back to Batman, putting Joker where he belongs, in a cell.
No, please! No!
Goodbye, Joker.
No! Bruce! Don't leave me! Please! I need you.
Returning to the waking world, Scarecrow tries one more dose of toxin, but the overexposure has made Batman immune to the effects. Scarecrow doesn't want to accept that he lost 4-0, so he draws a gun and shoots. Never mind, Red Hood saves the day, and Batman gives Scarecrow a taste of his own medicine.
No.
With that, Batman takes Scarecrow back to GCPD, and the long night is far from over if you haven't done the following. Stop a pigman from performing cosmetic surgeries, prevent Two-Face from making withdrawals from the Mafia's bank accounts, track Penguin down to destroy his arms race business, find out Azrael is a brainwashed minion who can choose not to be a brainwashed minion, a couple of one-offs, only one of which is fun, dismantle the Arkham Knight's militia now being run by Deathstroke before facing him in a boss fight that is basically an earlier tank fight but lamer, and solving every single Riddler puzzle just for the chance to face him. All of this is optional, but the true ending is locked behind the side missions. I hate when games do this. Usually, I treat side quests as either supplemental content or something to enjoy after completing the main game, like in the Elder Scrolls series. There are more egregious examples, like The Witcher 3 locking away certain side quests behind doing other quests before a certain point, or how the Final Fantasy VII Remake handled endgame content. I would have tolerated this more if there had been less content to wade through, but it takes forever. Especially the Riddler stuff. The only upside to this is unlocking some unique dialogues you wouldn't have if you had completed everything before facing Scarecrow, and comments from thugs on the street.
So is it true, Bruce? Don't answer them. We know the truth.
You aren't Bruce Wayne. Jim Gordon and I, we didn't strike a deal with Bruce Wayne.
And it's sure as hell not Bruce Wayne waiting on the rooftops each night.
This is who you are. See? We get it, Bruce. It's not the face you're given.
It's the face you choose.
So hang on. If Batman is Bruce Wayne, then who's been playing Bruce Wayne all this time?
So, when I break someone's arm, it's battery. When Rich Boy Wayne does the same damn thing, it's vigilantism. That's one sweet game.
Yeah, I want a piece of that.
Oh, it's easy, man. Just go get yourself a few $1 billion.
After that, you activate something called the Nightfall Protocol, say your goodbyes to everyone, head up to the bat signal, and give it one last look before heading off. It self-destructs, and the police head out to retake the city. As for Bruce, he heads home, ignoring the swarm of reporters to go inside.
We just saw Bruce Wayne, now known to be the masked vigilante Batman, enter his home, refusing to come.
This is how it happened. This is how the Batman died.
The last few scenes are of Gordon reflecting on why Batman takes himself out of the equation, showing that Robin and Barbara are engaged and that the old man is running for mayor. He also worries about what the city might become without Batman, which is playing out with two criminals reenacting the tragedy of the Wayne family. Except, there's one more person stalking from the shadows. The DLC narratives aren't really worth digesting. They're excuses for new playable characters, or where are they now scenarios. They are fun and tell some interesting stories, but they don't have any interesting details to go over. They don't even answer what exactly this is, which is what I hoped the DLC would have done. Yet, despite how they handled the endgame and story DLC, I pushed through New Game Plus and got the 240% completion. What was my reward? This. Look, this armor is great and all, but I think we all wanted something like this. So, with all the facts I have laid out, is Batman Arkham Knight a significant disappointment? For me, no. I liked many of the innovations and the improvements to gameplay, and didn't mind the Batmobile sections as much, even though I agree it should have been toned down to be 30% of the game. Coming off of Arkham Origins, Knight is a fresh palate cleanser, and I felt more engaged with the content, even if it drags on for a bit too long. Arkham City did do some elements better, like challenge maps, New Game Plus, the soundtrack, and more memorable locations. Arkham Origins did have a bit more variety while playing things safe, which I wish Rocksteady had learned more from. Still, I believe that Arkham Knight is up there with Asylum and City, with Origins sitting just below them. And there it is, a whole quadrilogy reviewed. It was enlightening to play through all these games in succession. With Rocksteady, you can tell that they were constantly improving and tweaking various elements. They were asking what works and what doesn't, and what would happen if they switched out certain enemies or reworked challenge maps. They're the type of risks that Call of Duty or Battlefield seem to fumble often. Rocksteady isn't satisfied with keeping what works and playing it safe, like WB Montreal was for Origins. And you know what? I can appreciate that. Some changes won't land gracefully, and not every past change that may have been good will stick around. Just look at games like Battlefield 2042, which tried to do away with classes only to re-implement them after fan backlash. However, developers need to expand their game's frameworks and make changes so more people can enjoy and consume their work. Rocksteady's games aren't like any other franchise, and I like that about them. Still, given how my review of Arkham Origins was received, I know that many won't agree with my opinions. Some may say that Arkham Asylum is better than City. Others will say that Origins is an underrated gem, and Knight shouldn't have implemented the changes I outlined. Whatever your opinion, I think we can all agree on one thing. All of these games are 1,000 times better than Suicide Squad Killed the Justice League. Thanks for watching. For my longtime viewers, you're probably expecting me to head back to Frogware's Sherlock Holmes games. Well, I'm not done yet. I want to make at least one analysis video on the true meaning behind one of the characters. If you don't want to miss it, subscribe or follow the channel. Also, leave a comment on your opinions on Arkham Knight and the series as a whole. Also, thank you for watching, and for those who are new, welcome aboard.